What I think can happen is we already know the answer, and sometimes these things just kind of help us see the thing that exists in front of us already. Hi, welcome to the Remotely Creative Podcast. I'm your host, Scotty Carlson, and today we have a special episode. Today we're going to talk about personal projects, and more importantly, finishing personal projects. I think personal projects are super important to do for creatives. It's something that I've had my own challenges with, as well as my own successes. And some of the things I've learned along the way, I've been doing this as a career for 25 years. I've owned a company called Juicy Studios. We typically do now mostly production, motion design, animation. But when we first started, we did kind of everything. We did screen printing, we did web design, branding, you name it, we tried it all. And during that time, I also tried a lot of different personal projects to flex and to scratch itches, flex creatively, not just flex, scratch creative itches, and to try something. You know, sometimes we have ideas bouncing around in our head and we just need to get it out and pressure test it, see how it feels, see how it works. Today, we're going to talk about taking one of those ideas from it just being an idea, bouncing around in your noggin, to all the processes, through all the processes, to the finish line, to hopefully, if you want to, releasing it and getting it out there to the world. Finishing them is something that I've had my own challenges with, is something I see in friends that do creative work. Starting is super fun. Getting to that middle ground, knowing what to do, how to move forward, finding the time, the energy, the resources can all be really challenging. So today we're going to go through the things that have worked for me, things that might not have worked for me that you can learn from, and hopefully help you go from just an idea to a finished project. So to get started, we're going to start with step one. Welcome to step one. So step one is to start. Starting is awesome. Starting is really fun. Starting is my favorite. I love starting. It's this, you have so much excitement and momentum and energy to put into something, this idea that just was kind of living up here, you're going to now kind of get out of you and see what it looks like in front of you. And for a lot of people, they will recommend slowing down, researching, finding reference, digging in deeper. And for them, that might be great. For me, what's worked is just going. I don't want to get caught in the analysis paralysis, overthink it, start questioning if it's worth the time, if the idea is good. And then before long, I'm just not doing it. And I could have used that energy just to at least test something out and just get started. Who knows where it could go from there. But I like to just start, just get the ball rolling, get the idea kind of out and onto something, onto some medium. And if I can do that, if I can just get that ball rolling, then I can usually make it to step two. Welcome to step two. So in step two, the idea is to make something bad. Not intentionally. Try and make it as good as you can, but don't overthink it. Don't overanalyze. Just try and get it down and get the idea out of you in the best way you can. Just pulling at it and poking at it and stretching it and just really seeing what it can be and just letting the idea kind of just pour out of you. And the farther you can get, whether that's 20 minutes or an hour or a day, just see what it feels like, even if it's fun, and kind of let the twists and the turns happen. And at this point, I don't really like to share this with anybody. I don't like to share it with friends, colleagues, collaborators, family. I don't want anybody else's voice to kind of come in and start impacting what the idea is. To me, at this point, it's really important to just kind of hold this close to the chest. And I don't even like to look at reference or try and find inspiration. I just want my voice and the things that kind of make up my voice, the things I've experienced and the music I've listened to and the movies I've watched and the books I've read to kind of be influencing the decisions at this point. And if I can do that, and if I can get it out and I still like it and it feels good, then I know it's time to keep going and I can make it to step 3. So, welcome to step 3. Step 3 is what I call the crossroads. Step 3 is kind of this place where I feel like we've put in enough effort and time to kind of see what the idea feels like. Sometimes we have an idea and we think it's great and we've thought about it and we've kind of played with it in our brains, and then we get it out onto paper or into music or video, animation, whatever it might be, and it just isn't what we thought it would be. And that's okay. For real, I have a lot of ideas that have kind of gotten to the stage and I've scratched the itch. It was great. It was fun to do. And it was all it was meant to be. And so that's where it stays. Because I also think this is where we can kind of get into the sunk cost fallacy, where we start putting enough time and effort into something that we feel like we need to keep going just because now we've kind of put in a certain amount of time. This is kind of the first kind of checkpoint, I would say, on the sunk cost fallacy. But you don't want to just also give up because, you look at the work ahead and you go, okay, now it's going to start getting real. So it's kind of, you got to really know yourself and trust yourself and be honest with yourself to know whether this is time to kind of leave the idea where it is and feel like you've scratched that itch, or decide to pursue it more, especially if it's fun. And that I would say is the big one. If the work to this point has been fun and the idea feels alive and it feels like it has more to give, then I think it's a really good opportunity to feel that gut instinct to kind of keep moving forward and pursue it. And so if you've got to this crossroads and you're feeling it and it feels fun and you feel like you have more energy to put into it, then I would say continue, and that will bring us to step 4. So step 4, welcome to step 4, but step 4 is more of a tip than it would say a step, but I do think it's really important. And that is, if what you want to do is learn a certain software, then it's great to wrap a personal project around learning that software, because I feel like learning a software while pursuing your own little project helps you actually have real world experience. You look up real world challenges you need to solve. You find tutorials that fix certain things that you're trying to do, or teach you certain skills that you don't know, versus if you just do tutorials for learning software's sake, you kind of end up in not really the same place. It's valuable, but I feel like it's more valuable to do a small project around learning new software. But if you have an idea and for a personal project and you're just trying to get to the end of that personal project, don't include software you don't know. Don't include skills and resources and equipment you don't have, because that is a surefire way to not finishing the project. Try and use what you have access to, what you have skills in, what you know how to do. Sure, little things here and there, learning a new skill along the way is great, but be very careful about trying to incorporate too much of that into a personal project, because that can send you off the rails really quickly. And then it's just another project on the pile that you didn't finish because it got too hard, it got too expensive, it got too confusing. And we don't want to do that. We want to try and find ways that we can get to the end of this project. I definitely have a lot of projects that I've started that became too big too quick. They needed more people, they needed more resources, and now they exist kind of around my studio, and they're a constant reminder to not do that when you just want to finish something. So just a reminder, and a good reminder not to do that, so that you can get to step 5. Step 5. Welcome to step 5. It turns out step 5 is also just another tip. Let's call it a tip. Tip 5. So tip 5 is knowing when to seek out reference or inspiration. Now, like I said, to me, a really important part with a personal project is getting your style and your voice out. And I think that is something that's why it's a personal project. I think a lot of people try and understand what their style is or what their voice might be. To me, that is just a culmination of all the things we've experienced, all the movies we've watched, all the music we've listened to, the albums we've listened to on repeat, the TV shows, the comics, the graphic novels, the conversations we've had with other people and ourselves. I think that's why, it's called Our Voice. But I think we try and, with these projects, to get as far as we possibly can, really utilizing that. And I would say, even if you feel like you want to look at reference or you want to look for inspiration, to try and do something else first. Try to take a walk, have a bath, have a conversation with a friend, go for coffee, whatever it might be, just to see if that can help. You don't even need to talk about the project, obviously. You just kind of consume some things that you like. Go listen to an album that you've loved in the past. Watch a movie that you've loved. Just kind of like kickstart those internal references and inspiration that already exists before you seek out new ones. And then if you do need to get, something kickstarted or feel like you need a reference or inspiration, I would say use those as just fuel to kind of get your own ideas rolling again, but don't use those as new goalposts for your project. Because I feel like you can look at something and it might look great. It might be, might look way better than what you think your project will turn out like. And then all of a sudden that can, one, derail us and feel like, oh, we're never going to get there. And two, start changing our course towards that new style reference, which starts taking away from what your voice is. And I think that is too bad, because people ultimately want something new. They want what is going to come out of you. So I would just say avoid them. If you need them, try and find them internally first. But if you can't, use them sparingly. Welcome to step 6. Step 6 is similar, and that's knowing when to ask for help. Knowing when to ask for help is as important as knowing who to ask and knowing what to ask. Now, I am a big believer and advocate for creating a group of collaborators or creative people you can bounce ideas off of, a small creative network for yourself. And that might be family, it might be friends, it might be colleagues, it might be people you've met in person or online. But even at this point in the process, I find that not divulging too much of your idea is still important, because I think it's still in this raw state that can, just like getting too much reference or inspiration other places, can kind of derail the project. So I think knowing who's going to give you the type of advice you want or that you're seeking, if it's music related or audio or narrative or visual, and then really kind of boxing in the question you have for them. You don't need to bring them fully up to speed with the project. Try and find a way to get the answer you need without giving them everything about the project. Everybody's busy. Everybody's got their own ideas, their own personal projects, their own professional lives and careers. They're busy, and they might just say one thing that can really just throw you off. And it can really, in a personal project, I feel like that can really be a detriment. So maybe ask someone what their favorite music is lately if you're looking for music, or their favorite score of a movie if it's something that you're looking for that way, in that lane, or whatever it is. Just maybe try and find a way to ask people that question without needing to give your entire project over. And I feel like in that way, you can get what I think can happen is we already know the answer, and sometimes these things just kind of help us see the thing that exists in front of us already. And sometimes these other answers can help. They can kind of add a new idea to the mix without kind of taking over the entire idea. All right, step 7. So step 7 to me is a tough one. This is what I call the dreaded mid-project blues. And if you don't get these, I'm extremely envious of you because I get the dreaded mid-project blues. To me, this happens when you've kind of pushed the idea. This happens professionally as well, but in a personal project, it's even more challenging because there's no paycheck at the end. There's nobody helping you. There's no other kind of conditions that make it kind of more able to kind of carry on. A paycheck helps me carry on when I get these professionally. Personally, in personal projects, this is just where the work gets hard. We've gotten past the start. We've made something bad. Now we're kind of trying to take that project and get it from its first iteration through to kind of the next stage, which I will call like we're trying to get it to a finish line. So we've liked it, we've pressure tested it, we've got it all out on paper or wherever we need to, whatever medium we're working in. And now we've kind of pushed through to this place at which the project is no longer fun. The project has just become good old-fashioned work, hard work. And when that's a personal project, you start questioning everything. Is it worth it? Why am I doing this? Is it worth the time? Is this silly? You name it, you'll think it. And there's no great answer to this other than good old-fashioned perseverance. For me, is what I've found. This is where I think it's easy because we're kind of run out of the dopamine hits too at this point. The start was super fun. We kind of got the idea down. We got it to a place that feels exciting. We've kind of done a bad version or at least like, some prototype of it. And now we've kind of making that better. And now we're trying to push through, whether that's a novel, you're kind of like 3/4 halfway through the novel and it's kind of just become this big spider web, or if that's a video project, you're kind of now just have all the footage and you're trying to edit it. That it's this point at which, the dopamine hits are fewer and far between, and it just takes that energy and that time. But I would say with perseverance, keep going. It's kind of like being halfway up that trail and knowing how far the mountain is away, or the top of the mountain is away. And you just want to kind of stop and go back to the place where the jump was and play on that jump or whatever it might be. You want that dopamine hit. It's easy to go back and start just iterating on little pieces, reworking stuff because you get these quick dopamine hits. And maybe that'll work for you. And that's important for me. Even though it's hard, really hard for me, I feel like it's important just to keep taking those steps forward to try and get to the finish line, because knowing once you get to the finish line, those dopamine hits start coming again, and they come bigger and more frequently, and it gets really exciting. So I would say persevere through the mid-project blues and just try and get at least closer to the end than you were. Don't go back and start iterating at this point. Nice work, you did it. You persevered. You've made it to step 8. Step 8 is what I call 90% done. And 90% done can feel like done, and it might be. You might get to that 90% done where you've got to the end of the project, you've finished it, you've finished the edit, you've finished the first draft of the novel, you've done the first kind of version of the song, whatever it might be, and you watch it, you listen to it, and you go, that was great. I'm so glad I did that, but it just is done now. Great. Good job. That's successful. But don't quit just because you're tired. If it feels like you scratched the itch and it's done, that's one thing. But if you're here and you have the energy and the project is still exciting to you, the last 10% can make a huge difference. The last 10%, and a lot of what I do is we start really massaging the edit. We start really working on the timing. We start adding sound design. We start working on, whether it's the narration. We do color grading. We do all the things that start making the project feel so much better. And that last 10%, if you really focus on it, I feel like can make the project 50, 60% better. It's hard because you're out of energy at this point. You're out of time. And you kind of just want to be done, and you are done in a way. And I have gotten projects here and they do feel done. And I just know that that's where that project needed to live. I might still release it, but it's just not something that needs that extra 10%. So again, this is the sunk cost fallacy, knowing what project needs that last 10% that can take almost as long as the entire project, but is just now just really kind of turning little buttons. And you do get dopamine hits because adding in music or putting in those final details can really make something feel great. And you get this like constant, you get to watch it back or, look at the thing you've made and get that sense of accomplishment, on repeat, which is great. But also know when it's just not that. And you don't need to keep going just to prove it, to yourself or to anybody else. That might just be it. The itch has been scratched, and that's great. But if you do put in that next 10% and you take that project right to the very end, I feel like there's great opportunity that exists ahead of you. Congratulations. You put in the last 10%. You made it to step 9, which I call the reward. And I think finishing that project for yourself is the reward. I think for some people, if this is where it ends and you never release this out to the public, that's fine. I think that you should feel incredibly successful by taking a personal project, an idea that an idea that existed in your head, and bring that to life, and making something tangible is an incredibly successful thing. And I think that it's rare to get a project from an idea that you had to something finished, especially going through all those stages and all that challenge to get to a place where it feels complete. And I don't think you need to release that to make that successful. But, and a big but, if you are so inclined to want to release something, I think there can be another reward. And I think that reward can be amazing and can come with all sorts of emotions. It can come with fear of releasing it, what people might say if people don't like it, anxiety, all the things. When I release something, I feel all the emotions, and that's okay. That's fun, because that can also feel exciting, and it does. And so with the releasing of it, the rewards can be new opportunities you didn't know existed, if that's something you want. Or it can be new collaborators. It can be new connections. It can be new followers, if that is something you want. The other thing I think it can do is it can inspire others to pursue their own idea, which is huge, because I think that's kind of part of this energy in this creative field that hopefully keeps flowing, and we kind of inspire each other. And I think a lot of, what is our voice or our style is things that other people have made, that they took from an idea into something we've consumed, we've appreciated, and became part of our own voice and style. So I think releasing it can be huge. Don't feel the pressure, but I do encourage you, if it's something you're thinking about, to do it, because it can be awesome. Step 10. Which I call hide and seek. So we finished this project. Good job. really, for real. Like, if you finish a personal project, I'm your biggest fan. I am cheering for you. It is incredible. It is so challenging. If you don't feel the challenge, that's awesome. If you're able to do personal projects from beginning to end and bring them to life without major struggle, oh man, kudos. That is so rad. For everybody else, kind of finding the energy, finding the time and the courage to pursue one of these things when, it could be seen as silly or frivolous, I think is incredible. So good job. You're unsure about releasing it. You released it. You're fearful of what people would say. But now the other bad thing has happened, which is nobody said anything. Nobody saw it. It's the double-edged sword, where we're so fearful of what people might say, but then we release it and turns out nobody was watching. Nobody was waiting for it to be released. And so it's crickets. Nobody sees it. Nobody says anything. There's no likes. There's no activity around it at all. And that becomes this other, it's like, oh, I didn't want anybody to say anything bad, but I want somebody to say something. So this is where we need to put on our other hat, our marketer, our salesperson, and find out where things like the thing you made exist. find out where you can place this, where you can email, where you can call. This might be a gallery. This might be a film festival. I've worked with people that are really great at this. They are so proud of the work they do. They find every avenue they can to submit that. And that might be curated websites. There's so many opportunities that exist, but they aren't looking for you yet until you start letting them know you exist. So this can be hard. It is for me still to this day, but I know it's important when I want to get my work out there. So you need to find a way to get it out there. You need to email those people, cold call those people, knock on those gallery doors, let people know you exist, know what you made exist. And it might not be easy and it might not be quick, but I think if you can do that, and it might take just as long as the project. It's this whole other project you take on for your project. I think you can do it while you're kind of getting the next thing going, but it's almost a shame not to put in that work. It's something I fight with because I get tons of reward from finishing a project, but I know truly I do want people to see it. So finding ways to get it out there, and it might take a long time. So something I truly believe in is not iterating on the same project over and over. I get that works for some people, and they will do draft after draft after draft, edit after edit after edit after edit, and keep making it better in their own minds, or I shouldn't say in their own minds, keep making it better. And that's awesome. For me, I've tried that and it just doesn't work. I get caught again in this analysis paralysis where I wonder if this version is better than the last version, or if V final 17B is better than, V final 6A, and then nothing happens. So I like to try and iterate over projects. If I put one out and it doesn't hit and people don't see it, I try not to think of that as a failure. I think about that as just building a catalog, and now I'm going to try the next thing. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to keep trying the next thing, because sometimes it's the fifth thing you made. It's the fifth iteration of an idea, and it doesn't need to be the same idea, just of one of your ideas that all of a sudden hits, and then people want to find, they like to know there's a catalog there. If they show up and you have one thing and that's all exists, there's not a big opportunity for them to become a true fan of yours. But if you have 6, 7, 8, 10, however many projects that you've done, and the 11th one works, then they can come there and find these other 10 things that exist in your voice, and they can see the progression and the growth of you as an artist and as a storyteller, whatever it might be. I love that. I love seeing that. So I really recommend people to iterate over time and over the course of many projects instead of over one. So that's what's worked for me. It might not work for everybody, but over the course of 25 years of doing this and trying personal projects, I try and do one a year. It doesn't always work out. Sometimes I do more than one a year. Sometimes there's years where I don't do one, because life doesn't always work out that way, and it can't be perfect, and you can't always nail it. But the personal projects I have been able to do have always led to something unique, some cool opportunity. I did a hockey short film that turned into working with an NHL franchise over multiple projects, which was a dream come true. I've done projects that have created fun friend group kind of stories that we get to tell over, a decade that are fun. I've done things that have just like scratched itches, just really been fun playground for me to kind of explore and learn new skills. So they've always offered something really valuable to myself. I do encourage you to pursue them. Don't get caught up in needing to always take them right to the very, very end. There's that, like I said, the sunk cost fallacy, kind of knowing at which stage you can kind of get off and go, okay, that was good. I scratched that itch. That, that novel I thought I had turns out was just a short story, or that film works really great as just, some style frames. Those are really great. And I think that's cool. That's kind of part of the process. And then you have some that as you work on them, they grow and they grow, and hopefully they don't grow too much that they become impossible to finish, but they grow in a way that keeps the momentum growing as well. So I encourage you to pursue those when the opportunity exists. Don't put tons of pressure on yourself. This is a personal project. It should feel fun. When it becomes work, know that once you get through that work, you'll have this thing you get to hold on to forever that is just a part of you, and it's an incredible success in its own right. And I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for listening to me, allowing me to share what's worked for me. And like I said, this might not work for everybody. It's just worked for myself. Take these, use what works for you, get rid of what doesn't, and make something, and then make something again, and then make something again. Thank you very much. I'm Scotty Carlson, and this is Remotely Creative.